What happens with CEI? Nothing. It's no good. Don't be in CEI.
In the marketplace of ideas. So problem. So explain what that means. Oh, sure. So, like I mentioned before, like how on Twitter you have to click through on a link before you reshare it. Small actions like that, friction, don't require picking good ideas and bad ideas. They just make the platform less twitchy, less reactive. And Facebook's internal research says that each one of those small actions dramatically reduces misinformation, hate speech, and violence inciting content on the platform.
So, and we're running out of time, but on the second major topic of concern of Facebook, which is censorship, based on what you've seen, are you concerned about political censorship at Facebook and in Big Tech?
I believe you cannot have a system that has as big an impact on society as Facebook does today, with as little transparency as it does. I'm a strong proponent of chronological, a little bit of spam demotion, because I think we don't want computers deciding what we focus on. We should have software that is human scaled, where humans have conversations together, not computers facilitating who we get to hear from.
So how can we get more transparency? What would produce that?
I strongly encourage the development of some kind of regulatory body that could work with academics, work with researchers, work with other government agencies to synthesize requests for data that are privacy conscious. This is an area that I'm really passionate about. And because right now no one can force Facebook to disclose data. And Facebook has been stonewalling us, or even worse, they gave inaccurate data to researchers, as the scandal recently showed.
What data should they turn over? My time's expired. So.
For example, even data as simple as what integrity systems exist today and how well do they perform. Like, there are lots and lots of people who Facebook is conveying around the world that Facebook safety systems apply to their language, and those people aren't aware that they're using a raw, original, dangerous version of Facebook. Just basic actions like transparency would make a huge difference.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Cruz. Senator Loomis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your testimony. If you were in
Weekly
my
series,
today and
buying that
University,
3200
what documents or unanswered questions would you seek from Facebook, especially as it relates to children, but even generally speaking?
I think any research regarding what Facebook does problematic use, i.e. the addictiveness of the product, is of vital importance. And anything around what Facebook knows about parents' lack of knowledge about the platform. I only know about the documents that I have seen, right? I did not work on teens or child safety myself, but in the documents that I read, Facebook articulates the idea that parents today are not aware of how dangerous Instagram is, and because they themselves did not live through these experiences, they can't coach their kids on basic safety things. And so, at a minimum, Facebook should have to disclose what it knows in that context.
Okay, so we're trying to protect individuals' data that they're gathering, have data privacy, but have transparency in the manner in which the data is used. Can we bridge that gap?
Imagine, I think reasonable people can have a conversation on how many people need to see a piece of content before it's not really private. Like, if 100,000 people see something, is it private? If 25,000 people see it, is it private? Just disclosing the most popular content on the platform, including statistics around what factors went into the promotion of that content, would cause radically more transparency than we have today on how Facebook chooses what we get to focus on, how they shape our reality.
Okay, if our focus is protecting the First Amendment and our rights to free speech, while very carefully regulating data privacy, I've heard there are a number of things that are being discussed in Congress. Everything from antitrust laws to calling Facebook a utility, to the idea that you just raised of a regulatory board of some sort that has authority to, through understanding of the algorithms and how they're used and other mechanisms that create what we see, the face of Facebook, so to speak. Tell me a little more about how you envision that board working. What is in your mind, based on your understanding of the company and the ill consequences, what is the best approach to bridging the gap between keeping speech free and protecting individual privacy with regard to data?
So I think those issues are, they're independent issues. So we can talk about free speech first, which is having more transparency. Like, Facebook has solutions today that are not content-based. place like Ethiopia where they speak 6 languages, if you have something that focuses on good ideas and bad ideas.
That's Frances Haugen, former Facebook employee turned whistleblower, giving evidence to US senators. If there's an overall theme so far that's emerged, it is this. According to Haugen, Facebook resolves conflicts between profits and the safety of its users in favour of profits. We'll bring you more of that as we get it here on BBC World News.
This is the moment. A lifelong dream, finally made real. What did it take to get here? Watch. You adapted your plans with every new piece of information. No matter what, you kept on learning. The path you start now could last a lifetime. So, start here. For those who are always learning, the future is ours. Bayes Business School, always learning.
Need your fix of the beautiful game? Then head to the BBC Sport website and app. With goal alerts, score predictions and top punditry. Go online or download the app now.
How worried is the WHO?
We really need to focus on bringing transmission down.
You've been in office for some time. What are you doing about it?
This question is out of context.
Well, the turnout was at 90%. You know how many seats your party got? 0, Mrs.
We failed to win seats, but we got more votes than previous elections.
It's a risk you're taking.
I take risks every day. The reason you haven't divorced is that you simply can't afford it.
You're right about that.
Hard Talk on BBC World News.
Tony here from CreditRepair.com. Take it to the streets to talk about credit. Can you repair your credit yourself?
Yes.
Great. How? How long does credit repair take?
I don't know, like 10 years.
What? Are you insane? What's a good credit score? Go.
600.
Maybe if you're trying to evaluate at CreditRepair.com.
My wedding planner got me these fries. She's amazing, and I found her on Thumbtack. Same place I found all my wedding vendors. I checked profiles, reviews, and prices, asked a million questions, and did it all in the app. I found vendors who really got me. Download Thumbtack today. Show some love, Peloton. High five a friend across the country or right next door. Let's go hit the mat hardcore. Y'all look so good out there, Peloton.
The original Peloton bike, now $100 less. All access membership separate.
You're driving innovation. You're racing to the cloud. You need to do it securely. That's why Palo Alto Networks developed Prisma Cloud, an integrated platform that secures your cloud environments end to end. Used by the world's largest organizations, Prisma Cloud provides the cybersecurity you need from code to cloud, so you can get cloud security right the first time around. We've got next.
This is BBC World News. Here are the headlines. A Facebook whistleblower has told US lawmakers she believes Facebook's products harm children, sow division, and weaken democracy. Frances Haugen has called for better regulation of the company outage that prevented access to Facebook and its sister sites, WhatsApp and Instagram, for 6 hours. More than $5 billion was wiped off the value of the company. The staggering scale of child sexual abuse by the French Roman Catholic Church has been revealed. An inquiry identified more than 200,000 victims spanning the past 70 years. And a Russian actor and her director, the crew are hoping to beat
That's funny.
project planned by Tom Cruise and NASA. They'll spend 12 days in space filming a challenge.
Now on BBC World News, Click looks at the new media tools set to revolutionise business and personal life. And for more, use hashtag.
Because we value people's lives more than we value money, right? The people get in over their heads and they need a process where they admit they did something wrong, but we have a mechanism where we forgive them and we have a way for them to move forward. Facebook is stuck in a feedback loop that they cannot get out of. They have been hiding this information because they feel trapped, right? Like they would have come forward if they had solutions to these things. They need to admit they did something wrong and they need help to solve these problems. And that's what moral bankruptcy is.
Let me ask, I'm going to switch gears here, and this is, what's your current position right now in terms of its disinformation and counter-espionage?
My last role at Facebook was in counter-espionage.
I'm sorry, your last role, okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things, this is a very different topic, and I only got a minute or so left, but right now is Facebook, I know Facebook is not allowed in countries like China, but do they provide platforms for authoritarian or terrorist-based leaders like the Ayatollahs in Iran, that's the largest state-sponsored terrorism in the world, or the Taliban, or Xi Jinping, are certain, in my view, our biggest rival for this century? Do they provide a platform for those kind of leaders who, in my view, clearly don't hold America's interests in mind? Does Facebook provide that?
During my time working with the Threat Intelligence Org, so I was a product manager supporting the counter-espionage team. My team directly worked on tracking Chinese participation on the platform, surveilling, say, weaker populations. We'd actually find the Chinese based on doing these kinds of things.
So Facebook,
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
We also saw active participation of, say, the Iran government doing espionage on other state actors. So this is definitely a thing that is happening, and I believe Facebook's consistent understaffing of the counter-espionage, information operations, and counterterrorism teams is a national security issue, and I'm speaking to other parts of Congress about that.
So you were saying, in essence, that the platform push and promote their interests at the expense of America's?
Yes, Facebook's so very aware that this is happening on the platform, and I believe the fact that Congress doesn't get a report of exactly how many people are working on these things internally is unacceptable, because you have a right to keep the American people safe.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator Sullivan. You may have just opened an area for another hearing.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I have strong national security concerns about how Facebook operates today.
Well, Mr. Chairman, maybe we should, right? I mean, it's a...
I'm not being at all facetious. Thank you for your questions on this topic, and I know you have a busy schedule, but we may want to discuss this issue with you, members of our committee, at least informally, and if you'd be willing to come back for another hearing. That certainly is within the realm of possibility. I haven't consulted the ranking member, but or the chairwoman, but thank you for your honesty and your candor on that topic. Senator Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. First off, thanks for coming forward, and thanks for coming forward in a manner that you wanted to have positive change. So that's not always what happens. Earlier this year, I sent a letter to Facebook and other social media platforms asking them to detail the harmful impacts, good effects on mental health their platforms have on children and teens. So your reports reveal that Facebook has been fully aware of this for a while, and the harmful impacts, especially on young women. So I think we all agree that's completely unacceptable, and we've got to figure out how we protect the people that are vulnerable in this country from the harmful impacts of Facebook and other social media platforms. So first off, do you think there should be greater consideration for age when it comes to using any social media?
I strongly encourage raising age limits to 16 or 18 years old based on looking at the data around problematic use or addiction on the platform and children's self-regulation issues.
So I think you addressed this a little bit, but why do you think Facebook didn't address this publicly when they figured it out internally that they were having an adverse impact on young people, especially young women. Why didn't they come forward and say, we've got a problem, we've got to figure this out?
I have a huge amount of empathy for Facebook. These are really, really hard questions. And part of why I was saying I think they feel a little trapped and isolated is the problems that are driving negative social comparison on Instagram. Facebook's own research says Instagram is actually distinctly worse than, say, TikTok or Snapchat or Reddit, because TikTok is about doing fun things with your friends. Reddit is vaguely about ideas, but Instagram is about bodies and about comparing lifestyles. And so I think there are real questions where like Instagram would have to come in and think hard about their product or about like what is their product about. And I don't think those answers are immediately obvious. But that's why I believe we need to solve problems together and not alone, because collaborating with the public will give us better solutions.
So do you think Facebook was trying to mitigate the problem?
I think within the set of incentives that they were working within, they did the best they could. Unfortunately, those incentives are not sustainable and they are not acceptable in our society.
Do you think Facebook and other social media platforms ought to be required to report any harmful effects they have on young people?
One of the things that I found very interesting after the report in the Wall Street Journal on teen mental health was that a former executive at the company said Facebook needs to be able to have private research. And the part that I was offended by this was Facebook has had some of this research on the negative effects of Instagram on teenagers for years. I strongly support the idea that Facebook should have a year, maybe 18 months to have private research, but given that they are the only people in the world who can do this kind of research, that the public never gets to do it, they shouldn't be allowed to keep secrets when people's lives are on the line.
So,
because to be clear, if they make $40 billion a year, they have the resources to solve these problems. They're choosing not to solve them.
Didn't that surprise you? They wouldn't put more effort into this?
No.
Because you know it's going to catch up with them eventually, right?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier to Senator Hickenlooper, right? Coming in and having oversight might actually make Facebook a more profitable company 5 or 10 years from now, because toxicity, Facebook's own research shows they have something called an integrity holdout. These are people who don't get protections from integrity systems to see what happens to them. And those people who deal with a more toxic, painful version of Facebook use Facebook less. And so one could reason a kinder, friendlier, more collaborative Facebook might actually have more users 5 years from now. So it's in everyone's interest.
Do you think, I've got a bill, and there's a lot of bills that I think we've all talked about, but mine is called the Data Act. It's going to require express consent from users for large platforms to use algorithms on somebody. You agree with that? I mean, shouldn't we consent before they get to take everything about us and go sell it? Like how they send things to us?
For selling personal data, that is an issue I believe people should have substantially more control over. Most people are not well informed on what the personal costs of having their data sold are, and so I worry about pushing that choice back on individual consumers. In terms of should people consent to working with algorithms, I worry that if Facebook is allowed to give users the choice of do you want an engagement-based newsfeed or do you want a chronological newsfeed, like ordered by time, maybe a little spam demotion, that people will choose the more addictive option, that engagement-based ranking, even if it is leading their daughters to eating disorders.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Scott. I think we have concluded the first round, unless we're missing someone who is online and not hearing anyone. Let's go to the second round. Thank you again for your patience. I know you have a hard stop, I think, at 1:30, so we'll be respectful of that limitation. And I'll begin by asking a few questions. First, let me say, Senator Klobuchar very aptly raised with you the principal obstacle to our achieving legislative reform in the past, which is the tons of money spent on lobbyists and other kinds of influence peddling, to use a pejorative word that is so evident here in the United States Congress. Some of it's dark money, some of it is very overt. But I guess the point I'd like to make to you personally is that your being here really sends a profound message to our nation that one person can really make a difference. One person standing up, speaking out, can overcome a lot of those obstacles for us. And you have crystallized, in a way, our consciousness here. You've been a catalyst, I think, for change in a way that we haven't seen. And I've been working on these issues for 10, 15 years. And you have raised awareness in a way that I think is very unique. So thank you not only for your risk-taking and your courage and strength, but also for the effect that it has had. And I also want to make another point. You can tell me whether I'm correct or not. I think there are other whistleblowers out there. I think there are other truth tellers in the tech world who want to come forward. And I think you're leading by example. I think you are showing them that there's a path to make this industry more responsible and more caring about kids and about the nature of our public discourse generally and about the strength of our democracy. And I think you have given them a boost, those whistleblowers out there, in potentially coming forward. I think that's tremendously important. I think also, again, you can tell me if I'm wrong, there are a lot of people in Facebook who are cheering for you because there are public reporters in this world who tell that there are people working for Facebook who wish they had the opportunity and the courage to come forward as you've done because they feel a lot of reservation about the way that Facebook has used the platform, used algorithms, used content and pushed it on kids in this way. So those are sort of hypotheses that I hope you can confirm. And I also would like to ask you, because a lot of parents are watching right now. So you've advised us on what you think we should do, the reforms, some of them that you think we should adopt, stronger oversight, authorized by Congress, better disclosure, because right now, Facebook essentially is a black box for most of America. Facebook is a black box that's designed by Mark Zuckerberg Incorporated. Mark Zuckerberg and his immediate coterie, and the buck stops with him. And reform of Section 203, so there's some legal responsibility. So people have a day in court, some kind of recourse legally when they're harmed by Facebook, because right now it has this broad immunity. Most of America has no idea. Essentially, you can't sue Facebook. You have no recourse. Most America doesn't know about Section 230, and if you pushed a lot of members of Congress, they wouldn't know either.
It's actually slightly worse than that. Facebook made a statement in a legal proceeding recently where they said they had the right to mislead the court because they had immunity, right? That 230 gave them immunity, so why should they have to tell the truth about what they're showing?
Which is kind of
shocking.
Well, it is shocking to a lawyer, which some of us are. It's also utter disregard and contempt for the rule of law and for the very legal structure that gives them that kind of protection. So it's kind of a new low in corporate conduct, at least in court. So you've provided us with some of the reforms that you think are important, and I think that the oversight goes a long way because it in turn would make public a lot of what is going on in this black box. But for now, since a lot of teens and tweens disorders, the invitations to
Apple's hitting a 142 roughly, and that's where you need to take another 5 to 20% out of your Apple position.
and they will be haunted for their lifetimes by these experiences. What would you tell parents right now? What would you advise them about what they can do? Because they need more tools, and some of them more tools to protect their children. Right now, a lot of parents tell me they feel powerless. They need more information. They're way behind their kids in their adeptness online. And they feel that they need to be empowered in some way to protect their kids in the real world right now in real time. So I offer you that open-ended opportunity to talk to us a little bit about your thoughts.
Very rarely do you have one of these generational shifts where the generation that leads, like parents who guide their children, have such a different set of experiences. They don't have the context to support their children in a safe way. There is an active need for schools or maybe the National Institutes of Health to make established information where if parents want to learn on how they can support their kids, it should be easy for them to know what is constructive and not constructive. Because Facebook's own research says kids today feel like they are struggling alone with all these issues because their parents can't guide them. And one of the things I'm saddest when I look on Twitter is when people blame the parents for these problems with Facebook. They say, just take your kid's phone away. And the reality is those issues are a lot more complicated than that. And so we need to support parents, because right now, if Facebook won't protect the kids, we at least need to help the parents to protect the kids.
If parents are anguished
They are.
about this issue, parents are hardly uncaring. They need the tools, they need to be empowered, and I think that the major encouragement for reforms is going to come from those parents. And you have pointed out, I think in general, but I'd like you to just confirm for me, this research and the documents containing that research is not only findings and conclusions, it's also recommendations for changes. What I hear you saying is that again and again and again, these recommendations were just rejected or disregarded, correct?
There is a pattern of behavior that I saw at Facebook, of Facebook choosing to prioritize its profits over people. And any time that Facebook faced even tiny hits to growth, like 0.1% of sessions, 1% of views, that it chose its profits over safety.
And you mentioned, I think, bonuses tied to downstream MSIs.
To core MSI, yeah.
Could you explain what you meant?
So MSI is meaningful social interaction. Facebook's internal governance is very much based around metrics. So Facebook is incredibly flat, to the point where they have the largest open floor plan office in the world. It's a quarter of a mile long in one room, right? They believe in flat. And instead of having internal governance, they have metrics that people try to move. In a world like that, it doesn't matter that we now have multiple years of data saying MSI may be encouraging bad content, might be making spaces where people are scared, where they are shown information that puts them at risk. It's so hard to dislodge a ruler like that, a yardstick, that you end up in the situation where, because no one is taking leadership, like no one is intentionally designing these systems, it's just many, many people running in parallel, all moving the metric, that these problems get amplified and amplified and amplified, and no one steps in to bring the solutions.
And I just want to finish, and then I think we've been joined by Senator Young, and then we'll go to Senator Blackburn and Senator Klobuchar. I spent a number of years as an attorney general helping to lead litigation against big tobacco. And I came to hear from a lot of smokers how grateful they were, ironically and unexpectedly, that someone was fighting big tobacco because they felt they had been victimized as children. They started smoking when they were 7, 8, 12 years old because big tobacco was hooking them. And as we developed the research very methodically and purposefully, addicting them at that early age when they believed that they would make themselves more popular, that they would be cool and hip if they began smoking, and then nicotine hooked them. Now, physiologically, nicotine has addictive properties. What is it about Facebook's tactics of hooking young people that makes it similar to what big tobacco has done?
Facebook's own research about Instagram contains quotes from kids saying, I feel bad when I use Instagram, but I also feel like I can't stop, right? I know that the more time I spend on this, the worse I feel, but like I just can't, like that they want the next click, they want the next like, the dopamine, the little hits all the time. And I feel a lot of pain for those kids, right? Like they say they fear being ostracized if they step away from the platform. So imagine you're in this situation, you're in this relationship where every time you open the app it makes you feel worse, but you also fear isolation if you don't. I think there's a huge opportunity here to make social media that makes kids feel good, not feel bad.
Watch the false breakdown
To make sure that they're safe online.
on Apple.
Thank you. Senator Young.
Jen, thank you for your compelling testimony. In that testimony, you discuss how Facebook generates self-harm and self-hate, especially among vulnerable groups like teenage girls. I happen to be a father of 4 kids, 3 daughters, 2 of whom are teenagers, and as you just alluded to, most adults, myself included, I've never been a teenager during the age of Facebook, Instagram, and these other social media platforms. And therefore, I think it can be really hard for many of us to fully appreciate the impact that certain posts may have, including, I would add, on a teen's mental health. So can you discuss the short and long-term consequences of body image issues on these platforms, please?
I'll be right back.
The patterns that children establish in their teenage years live with them for the rest of their lives. The way they conceptualize who they are, how they conceptualize how they interact with other people, are patterns and habits they will take with them as they become adults, as they themselves raise children. I'm very scared about the upcoming generation because when you and I interact in person and I say something mean to you and I see you wince or I see you cry, that makes me less likely to do it the next time, right? That's a feedback cycle. Online, kids don't get those cues and they learn to be incredibly cruel to each other and they normalize it. And I'm scared of what will their lives look like where they grow up with the idea that it's okay to be treated badly by people who allegedly care about them. That's a scary future.
Very scary future. And I see some evidence of that as do so many parents on a regular basis. Are there other specific issues of significant consequence that the general public may not be fully aware of that are impacting vulnerable groups that you just like to elevate during this testimony?
One of the things that's hard for people who don't look at the data of social networks every day, it can be hard to conceptualize the distribution patterns of harms or just of usage. That there are these things called power laws. It means that a small number of users are extremely intensely engaged on any given topic, and most people are just lightly engaged. When you look at things like misinformation, Facebook knows that the people who are exposed to the most misinformation are people who are recently widowed, divorced, moved to a new city, are isolated in some other way. When I worked on civic misinformation, we discussed the idea of the misinformation burden Like the idea that when people are exposed to ideas that are not true over and over again, it erodes their ability to connect with the community at large because they no longer adhere to facts that are consensus reality. The fact that Facebook knows that its most vulnerable users, people who are recently widowed, like that they're isolated, that the systems that are meant to keep them safe, like demoting misinformation, stop working when people look at 2,000 posts a day, right? And it breaks my heart, the idea that these rabbit holes would suck people down and then make it hard to connect with others.
So, Ms. Hodgson, I desperately want to, which is the American impulse, I want to solve this problem. And I very much believe that Congress not only has a role, but has a responsibility to figure this out. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I would value your opinion, though, as to whether you believe that breaking up Facebook would solve any of the problems that you've discussed today. Do you think it would?
So as an algorithmic specialist, so this is someone who designs algorithmic experiences, I'm actually against the breaking up of Facebook because even looking inside of just Facebook itself, so not even Facebook and Instagram, you see the problems of engagement-based ranking repeat themselves. So the problems here are about the design of algorithms of AI and the idea that AI is not intelligent. And if you break up Instagram and Facebook from each other, it's likely, so I used to work on Pinterest. And a thing that we faced from a business model perspective was that advertisers didn't want to learn multiple advertising platforms. That they wanted to learn, they got one platform for Instagram and Facebook and whatever, and learning a second one for Pinterest, Pinterest made radically fewer dollars per user. And what I'm scared of is, right now, Facebook is the internet for lots of the world. If you go to Africa, the internet is Facebook. If you split Facebook and Instagram apart, it's likely that most advertising dollars will go to Instagram, and Facebook will continue to be this Frankenstein that is altering, that is endangering lives around the world, only now there won't be money to fund it. And so I think oversight and finding collaborative solutions with Congress is going to be key, because these systems are going to continue to exist and be dangerous even if broken up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a text that was just put up by Facebook's spokesperson, Angela Stone. It says, just pointing out the fact that Frances Hogan did not work on child safety or Instagram or research these issues and has no direct knowledge of the topic from her work at Facebook. So I will simply say this to Mr. Stone. If Facebook wants to discuss their targeting of children, if they want to discuss their practices of privacy invasion or violations of the Children Online Privacy Act, I am extending to you an invitation to step forward, be sworn in, and testify before this committee. We would be pleased to hear from you and welcome your testimony. One quick question for you. What's the biggest threat to Facebook's existence? Is it greed? Is it regulators? Is it becoming extinct or obsolete for teenage users? What is the biggest threat to their existence?
I think the fact that Facebook is driven so much by metrics, and that these lead to a very heavy emphasis on short-termism, that every little individual decision may seem like it helps with growth, but if it makes it to more and more toxic platform that people don't actually enjoy, like when they passed meaningful social interactions back in 2018, Facebook's own research said that users said it made it less meaningful, right? I think this aggregated set of short-term decisions endangers Facebook's future. But sometimes we need to pull it away from business as usual, help it write new rules if we want it to be successful in the future.
So they can't see the forest for the trees.
Yes. Very
Thank
well.
you. And I know Senator Klobuchar is waiting, so I'll yield my time back, and I thank you.
Thanks, Senator Blackburn.
Thank you very much, and thank you to both of you for your leadership. And all three of us are on the Judiciary Committee, so we're also working on a host of other issues, including the App Store issues, which is unrelated to Facebook, actually, including issues relating to dominant platforms when they promote their own content or engage in exclusionary conduct, which I know is not our topic today. I see the thumbs up from you, Ms. Hogman, which I appreciate. And I think this idea of establishing some rules of the road for these tech platforms goes beyond the kid protection that we so dearly need to do, and I just want to make sure you agree with me on that.
Totally. I was shocked when I saw the New York Times story a couple weeks ago about Facebook using its own platform to promote positive news about itself. I was like, wow. I think you shaped our reality. I wasn't aware it was that much.
Right, and that's a lot of the work that we're doing over there. So I want to get to something Senator Young was talking about, misinformation, and Senator Lujan and I have put together an exception actually to the 230 immunity when it comes to vaccine misinformation in the middle of a public health crisis. Last week, YouTube announced it was swiftly banning all anti-vaccine misinformation, and I've long called on Facebook to take similar steps. They've taken some steps, but do you think they can remove this content, and do they put sufficient resources? We know the effect of this. We know that over half the people that haven't gotten the vaccines is because of something that they've seen on social media. I know the guy, I walked into a cafe and said his mother-in-law wouldn't get a vaccine because she thought a microchip would be planted in her arm. Could you, which is false, I'm just saying that for the record here, could, in case it gets put on social media, could you talk about, are there enough resources to stop this from happening?
I do not believe Facebook, as currently structured, has the capability to stop vaccine misinformation because they are overly reliant on artificial intelligence systems that they themselves say will likely never get more than 10 to 20% of content.
There you go. And yet it's a company that, the cap over $1 trillion, one of the world's biggest companies that we've ever known, and that's what really bothers me. Here, Senator Lujan and I also have pointed out the issue with content moderators. Does Facebook have enough content moderations for content in Spanish and other languages?
BMRA is coming up. If it breaks 680, you can get in for 50 cents of risk.
We have documentation that shows how much operational investment there was by different languages, and it showed a consistent pattern of underinvestment in languages that are not English. I am deeply concerned about Facebook's ability to operate in a safe way in languages beyond maybe the top 20 in the world.
Okay, thank you. We go back to eating disorders. Today you said that you have documents indicating Facebook is doing studies on kids under 13, even though technically no kids under 13 are permitted on the platform. The potential for eating disorder content to be shown to these children raises serious concerns. Senator Blumenthal's been working on this. I've long been focused on this eating disorder issue, given the mortality rates. Are you aware of studies Facebook has conducted about whether kids under 13 on the platform are nudged towards content related to eating disorders or unhealthy diet practices? CNN also did an investigation on this front.
I have not seen specific studies regarding eating disorders in under the age of 13, but I have seen research that indicates that they are aware that teenagers coach tweens who are on the platform to not reveal too much, to not post too often, and that they've categorized that as a myth that you can't be authentic on the platform, and that the marketing team should try to advertise to teenagers to stop coaching tweens that way. So I believe we've shared that document with Congress already.
Exactly. Well, thank you. And we'll be looking more. Speaking of the research issue, Facebook has tried to downplay the internal research that was done, saying it was unreliable. It seems to me that they're trying to mislead us there. The research was extensive, surveying hundreds of thousands of people traveling around the world to interview users. In your view, are the internal researchers at Facebook who examine how users are affected by the platform, is their work thorough? Are they experienced? Is it fair for Facebook to throw them under the bus?
Facebook has one of the top-ranked research programs in the tech industry. Like, they've invested more in it than I believe any other social media platform. And some of the biggest heroes inside the company are the researchers, because they are boldly asking real questions and being willing to say awkward truths. The fact that Facebook is throwing them under the bus, I think, is unacceptable, and I just want researchers to know that I stand with them and that I see them.
Or maybe we should say, as the name of one book, The Ugly Truth.
Yeah.
What about Facebook blocking researchers at NYU from accessing the platform? Does that concern you? These are outside researchers.
I am deeply concerned. So for context, for those who are not familiar with this research, there are researchers at NYU who, because Facebook does not publish enough data on political advertisements or how they are distributed, these are advertisements that influence our democracy and how it operates. They created a plugin that allowed people to opt in, to volunteer, to help collect this data collectively, and Facebook lashed out at them and even banned some of their individual accounts. The fact that Facebook is so scared of even basic transparency that it goes out of its way to block researchers who are asking awkward questions shows you the need for congressional oversight and why we need to do federal research and federal regulations on this.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thanks, Senator Klobuchar. Senator Markey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your incredible leadership on this issue. As early as 2012, Facebook has wanted to allow children under the age of 12 to use its platform. At that time, in 2012, I wrote a letter to Facebook asking questions about what data it planned to collect and whether the company intended to serve targeted ads at children. Now here we are 9 years later, debating the very same issues. Today, Ms. Hogan, you made it abundantly clear why Facebook wants to bring more children onto the platform. It's to hook them early, just like cigarettes, so that they become lifelong users, so Facebook's profits increase. Yet we should also ask why in the last 9 years has the company not launched Facebook for Kids or Instagram for Kids? After all, from the testimony here today, Facebook appears to act without regard to any moral code or any conscience, or instead puts profit above people, profit above all else. The reason why Facebook hasn't officially permitted kids 12 and under to use its platform is because the Child Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998 that I'm the author of exists. Because there is a privacy law on the books, which I authored, that gives the Federal Trade Commission regulatory power to stop websites and social media companies from invading the privacy of our children, 12 and under. That's why we need to expand the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. That's why we need to pass the Kids Act that Senator Blumenthal and I have introduced, and why we need an Algorithmic Justice Act to pass, because the absence of regulation leads to harming teens, stoking division, damaging our democracy. That's what you've told us today. So, Ms. Hogan, I want you to come back to the protections that you are calling on us to enact. This isn't complicated. We're going to be told online all day with these paid Facebook people, oh, Congress can't act. They're not experts. It's too complicated for Congress. Just get out of the way. You're not experts. Well, this isn't complicated. Facebook and its big tech lobbyists are blocking my bills to protect kids because it would cost them money. That's how complicated it is. So let's start with the Kids Act that Senator Blumenthal and I that would ban influencer marketing to kids. Today's popular influencers peddle products while they flaunt their lavish lifestyles to young users. Can you explain how allowing influencer marketing to teens and children makes Facebook more money?
The business model that provides a great deal of the content on Instagram is one where people produce content for free. They put on Instagram free, no one's charged for it.
That was the breakdown on Apple. Exit Apple, exit Apple.
From brands or from other affiliate programs. Facebook needs those content creators to continue to make content so that we will view content and in the process view more ads. Facebook provides tools to support influencers who do influencer marketing, because it gives them the supply of content that allows them to keep people on the platform, viewing more ads, making more money for them.
Yep. So I am actually the author of the 1990 Children's Television Act. What does that do? Well, it says to all the television networks in America, stop preying upon children. Stop using all of your power in order to try to get young children in our country hooked on the products that are going to be sold. We had to pass a law to ban television stations from doing this. That's why I knew that after my law passed in 1996 to break up the monopolies of the telecommunications industry and allow in the Googles and the Facebooks and all the other companies, you name it, that we would need a child privacy protection there because everyone would just move over to that new venue. It was pretty obvious, and of course the industry said, no way we're going to have privacy laws for adults, and they blocked me from putting that on the books in 1996. But at least for children, I got up to age 12. That's all I could get out of the industry. But we also know that as time has moved on, they've become even more sophisticated, so that the Kids Act is necessary to stop children and teen apps from being features such as likes and follower counts that quantify popularity. Ms. Hogan, can you explain how allowing these features that create an online popularity contest makes Facebook more money?
BMRA starting to
Just
come
to
up.
make sure, so I am only familiar with issues regarding teens.
If it breaks 680, you can get in for 50 cents of risk.
So I want to put that caveat in there. The research I have seen with regard to quantifiable popularity is that as long as comments are allowed, so this is not a quantitative thing, this is just comments, as long as comments are still on posts on Instagram, just taking likes off Instagram doesn't fix the social comparison problem. That, teenage girls are smart, they see that Sally is prettier than them, her pictures are really good, she gets tons of comments, they don't get very many comments, right? And so I do think we need larger interventions than just removing quantitative measures. Facebook has a product that is very attractive. The reason why they have the study of problematic use is because it is kind of addictive. And those kinds of things, like having lots of little feedback loops, keeps kids engaged. And like I mentioned earlier, part of why Facebook switched over to meaningful social interactions was it found that if you got more likes, more comments, more reshares, you produced more content. And so having those systems of little rewards makes people produce more content, which means we view more content, and we view more ads, which makes them more money.
Okay, and the Kids Act that Senator Blumenthal and I are advocating for also prohibits amplification of dangerous and violent content to children and teens. Can you explain how algorithms pushing that dangerous content makes Facebook more money?
I don't think Facebook ever set out to intentionally promote divisive, extreme, polarizing content. I do think, though, that they are aware of the side effects of the choices they have made around amplification, and they know that algorithmic-based ranking, so engagement-based ranking, keeps you on their sites longer. You have longer sessions, you show up more often, and that makes them more money.
So do you believe we have to ban all features that quantify popularity as a starting point in legislation?
As I covered before, the internal research I've seen is that removing things like likes alone, if you don't remove things like comments, doesn't have a huge impact on social comparison. So I do believe we need to have a more integrated solution for these issues.
Should we ban targeted advertisements to children?
I strongly encourage banning targeted advertisements to children, and we need to have oversight in terms of, I think the algorithms will likely still learn the interests of kids and match ads to those kids, even if the advertiser can't articulate and want to target on this interest.
Right. How much money does Facebook make from targeting children?
I don't know what fraction of the revenue comes from children.
Okay, so ultimately children are not commodities.
No.
They've always been given, historically, special protections. That's what the Children's Television Act of 1990 is all about. They've always been given this special safety zone so that children can grow up without being preyed upon by marketers. When I was a boy, and the salesman would knock on the front door, my mother would just say, "Tell him I'm not home. That man is not getting into our living room." Well, I would say to my mother, "But you are home." "Not to him," she would say. Well, we need to give parents the ability just to say, "No one's home for you and your company in your attempts to prey upon children to get into our living room." That's our moment in history. We have to make sure that we respond to the challenge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Markey, and my thanks to Senator Markey for his leadership over many years on protecting children. As you've heard, he was a champion in the House of Representatives before coming in, well before I was in the United States Senate, but around the time I was elected Attorney General. I've been very pleased and honored to work with him on legislation now going forward, and I join him in thanking you. I have just a few concluding questions, and I seem to be the last one left standing here, so the good news is I don't think we'll have others, but as you may know, you do know, my office created an Instagram user as a 13-year-old girl. She followed a few easily identifiable accounts on weight loss, dieting, eating disorders, and she was deluged literally within a day of content pushed to her by algorithms that in effect promoted self-injury and eating disorders. Are you surprised by that fact?
I'm not surprised by that fact. Facebook has internal research where they have done even more gentle versions of that experiment, where they've started from things like interest in healthy recipes, so not even extreme dieting, and because of the nature of engagement-based ranking and the amplification of interests, that imaginary user was pushed, or that real account was pushed towards extreme dieting and pro-anorexia content very rapidly.
And that's the algorithm.
That's the algorithm.
That algorithm could be changed?
The algorithm definitely could be changed. I have firsthand experience from having worked at Pinterest. Pinterest used to be an application that was heavily based just on you follow certain people's pins, and those are put into your feed. And over time, it grew to be much, much more heavily based on recommendations, that the algorithm would figure out what are you interested in. You can have wonderful experiences that are based on human interactions. So these are human scale technologies, not computers choosing what we focus on.
So the average parent listening here, worried about their daughter or son being deluged with these kinds of content, would want that kind of algorithm changed, I would think, and would welcome the oversight that you're recommending.
I believe parents deserve more options and more choices, and today they don't know even what they could be asking for.
I just received by text, literally about 15 minutes ago, a message from someone in Connecticut, and I'm going to read it to you. It's from a dad. I'm in tears right now watching your interaction with Frances Haugen. My 15-year-old daughter loved her body at 14, was on Instagram constantly, and maybe posting too much. Suddenly she started hating her body dysmorphia, now anorexia, and was in deep, deep trouble before we found treatment. I fear she'll never be the same. I'm brokenhearted. I think people tend to lose sight of real world impact here. And I think that's the reason that you're here. I'd just like to invite you, if you have any words to those other employees at big tech, the workers who may be troubled by the misconduct or unethical conduct that they see, what you would tell them.
We live in A pattern that we have seen throughout time with regard to technologies is that humans are very crafty people. Like we find interesting solutions, but we often get out over our skis, right? We develop things that are of a larger scale than we really know how to handle. And what we have done in the past is when we see this happen, we take a step back and we find institutions and we find frameworks for doing these things in a safe way. We live in a moment where whistleblowers are very important because these technological systems are walled off. They are very complicated. They're things that you need to be a specialist to really understand the consequences of. And the fact that we've been having the exact same kinds of false choice discussions about what to do about Facebook, is it about privacy or oversight? Is it about censorship or safety? But the fact that we're being asked these false choices is just an illustration of what happens when the real solutions are hidden inside of companies. We need more tech employees to come forward through legitimate channels like the FCC or Congress to make sure that the public has the information they need in order to have technologies be human-centric, not computer-centric.
Thank you. On that note, we'll conclude. Thank you for an extraordinary testimony. I think that anybody watching would be impressed and much better informed. And you've done America a real public service, I think.
Thank you.
The record will remain open for for 2 weeks. Any senators who want to submit questions for the record should do so by October 19th. This hearing is adjourned.
Thank you.
Even watching live pictures here on Capitol Hill will stay as we still can see some of the lawmakers working their way out, in addition to the whistleblower there for Facebook. She is a Facebook whistleblower. She released tens of thousands of pages of internal research and documents surrounding addiction and the dangerous, many times harmful consequences involving our kids and the multi-billion-dollar company. Frances Haugen just came before the committee there, alleging Facebook hides its research about its shortcomings and that Facebook researchers have repeatedly found that the photo-sharing platform is toxic for our teen girls. Facebook has aggressively pushed back against these reports. Let's bring back, once again, business correspondent Deidre Bolden, also SiriusXM radio host and ABC News contributor Mike Muse, and also Roger McNamee, who wrote Zucked, author about Mark Zuckerberg, also a mentor, we should say, Roger, to Mark and Cheryl. Let's start with you. Pushing forward and looking at fixes and where do these lawmakers take this now and what happens next? There were a number of bills that were mentioned in detail. Also, in particular, a reform of Section 230, in addition to possibly, we heard this from Haugen, creating some sort of regulatory body to oversee Facebook and its actions. Where should we begin? Because it gets pretty technical and in the weeds, but maybe you can make sense of it for us and what you think could be.
There goes BMRA. Who got it? Who got that BMRA breakout? 6.8 was the breakout, 50 cents a risk.
We need to think about safety, privacy, and competition. And here's the way you have to think about it. Section 230 was originally created in 1996 to protect internet platforms, essentially allowing for the people who use internet platforms to put their own opinions up without the platform being held responsible. It works the same way that it worked for telephone companies that were not held responsible for the content of phone calls because they couldn't control that. The problem is the courts have interpreted Section 230 to provide blanket immunity to internet platforms. It really began with a case related to Grindr, which was a dating service. And really horrible things have basically been sanctioned as okay under Section 230, which is nuts. And so the notion that it must either be reformed or scrapped, I think, is well...
Make sure you sell every 25 cents, 5 to 20% of your position at 7. And now again, right now at 7.25, it's your second take profit.
The business model that Frances Haugen was describing, that is now being adopted throughout the economy. And we really need to address the much broader implications. And so that requires something that looks looks like an FDA that requires tech companies to prove that their products are safe before they're allowed to have them in the market. And I think they would have to continuously get this approved. And I think on privacy, it's very simple. Right now, there's literally no protection to the consumer. Every time you make a financial transaction, every time you get a medical test or a prescription, anytime you use your smartphone, anytime you use an app, anytime you go on the web, all of that data is tracked at your individual level, and it's available in a marketplace and sold to people who create these models of your life in order to both predict your behavior and manipulate it. That is so blatantly unfair. And we need to basically have a ban on surveillance capitalism, which starts by saying, I'm sorry, no third-party use of health information, financial information, location information, and anything you do on the web. It strikes me, that's the very beginning. And then on competition, part of the problem we had yesterday, Facebook goes down, all 3 applications disappeared for 6 hours. And people are stuck because there is no alternative. These guys are monopolies. And so we need to do all 3, and we need to do them more or less at the same time. Fortunately, there are different committees of Congress, so you can actually run these things at the same time. There are people who really understand these issues, particularly the House of Representatives. So I'm feeling moderately optimistic.
Oh, wow. We've got a positive. Okay, we got a little bit of a thumbs up here then from Roger. Mike, let's go to you. What are your thoughts about moving forward? We heard Roger feels with regard to if he were sitting before these lawmakers, what he would suggest and see as good reforms and moving in the right direction. I think about a regulatory body, but my goodness, how long that could take to put together when you just think of government bureaucracy.
I knew Jackson would get that. RJ, you're in, all right.
Because I love where it's going, where you and Roger just went regarding Section 230. Section 230 is one of the most complicated things for a lot of Americans to understand. I mean, but the idea that it was just simplistically the 26 words that created the internet has developed into this most complicated context of understanding, and then where do you apply Section 232 and then where you don't. And so much of this conversation has been focused on platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter when it comes to Section 230, but I think it's important for the average American to also understand that Section 230 will also have impact on Yelp and TripAdvisor. And so what it's essentially saying is that if I go to a restaurant and for whatever reason I don't like the restaurant service, maybe the quality of the food, I give it a negative rating and or a negative comment, then there is liability that I could sue TripAdvisor restaurant, I could sue TripAdvisor, right, or Yelp. So it gives protection of TripAdvisor and Yelp to be able to have the type of platform that allows those type of comments to go forward. I was talking with somebody last night, because this is things I do, is talk about Section 230 over wine, and he compared the analogy to a paper boy back in the day. And he was saying Section 230 is essentially is a paper boy, and the paper they're delivering is like the New York Times or the Washington Post. And so he was saying, do you want to sue the paper boy, which is like the Facebook, the Twitters, the TripAdvisors, or do you want to have issues with the publisher, which is the Washington Post and the New York Times?
OLPX.
We kind of teach the audience a little bit in the most simplistic use cases of what Section 30 is. There's a lot of individuals, such as Roger said, is that people want regulation within Section 230. I believe even Mark Zuckerberg.
Did you just catch that breakout on it?
That is a big term of the day. Carve-out. So we don't think about the filibuster. A carve-out. That's Section
230. It's already made a lot of moves today. 26. 75 cents a risk right now to get in. OLPX. U-break. I don't really think of it as a U-break. Who said that? RJ. That's not a U-break, RJ. I see what you mean. Okay. It's a V-break or something. Now they're doing all the analysis about it. I really don't care to hear that. Crap. want to find out afterward if it was going to be a good trade. This is why we have to do risk management, because we can't predict the future. What's up, Chino Three Hand? Who is that? I think that's probably what the problem is, though. Okay. No, lack of follow through on the OLPX breakout there. Definitely lack of follow through. Alright, I guess that's what he probably wants me to do. Where was that? Authorized apps. Where the hell is that? Huh, interesting. All right, BMRA starting to come back up around, and so is OLPX. And the S&P 500 looks like it's about to break out as well. Tech already did. Yeah, for those of you, oh, here comes Apple. Apple may break out again. Like right now. If it does and you want to get back in, you can get back in for 40 cents of risk to a stop of 141.60. Apple. 40 cents of risk, 141.60. Looking for that breakout at 142, by the way, on Apple. 142.01. 40 cents a breakout. 40 cents a risk.
You live?
And there goes the Apple breakout at 142. I see. BMRA has had 2 failed retests, and we are at that neckline breakdown now. If you're in BMRA, you can get out now around this 6.9 to 7 area, because it looks like it is failing. Microsoft was perfect for Path of Victory today. Ooh. Let's see. Oh, you couldn't hear me. I said Apple's progressing well. To get ready to take profits at underneath 142.50. Also, BM neckline broke at 7. You were to get out at somewhere in there around 7. Who is Chino 3 hand? Chino? Alright, so that didn't work. Okay. Sergio, okay. Alright, interesting. Now, yeah, that shows Discord. So, okay, good. It already is. Fine. OLPX continuing. I think it was RJ. So, yep, obviously you know to take some profits there just right about now, below 27. I think, where did you get in? I think that's roughly where you got in. All right. Microsoft was a perfect path of victory today, you said. Let me see. I want to see that somewhere. Let's see. Oh, yes. All day. Wow. Beautiful. Love that. Good example. All right. Now we're going to exit out of here. And we are at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock my time. You were looking at the swing from the all-time high break of 26.5 on OLPX as a swing. Okay, let me see. That's probably why you said U. Ah, gotcha. I didn't even know what this was. Now I know why you said that was a U breakout. Gotcha. Yeah, it actually was. Yeah, so that's 26.50 on the breakout, and then all the way to the bottom of the U, because it didn't create another significant pivot that you could really rely on. Down to like 22.80. So to me, I just rounded it, make it 22.50, and that's $4 a risk. So $4 a risk swing trade. You put it on, go for it. I guess I'll alert that. Yeah, all right. I will alert that. Sorry, I should have put more info in the chat. Yeah, plus like there's a bit of delay on this. I think we said 15-second delay, which I'm not sure why. Is it still, can you guys check, is it still 1080p? It's been streaming for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Basically just testing that it's going to be able to hold. And let me know. And do me another favor after that. If it is. If it is, great. 1080p source. That might be what you want to switch to if you want to get my resolution. The other thing I want you to check is there's an area there in the viewer for Twitch where you can select video stats. It's called stats. It's like it's in the gear icon, I think, somewhere. Video stats. Tell me, what is the kilobits per second that it shows? Ten 1080 source, thank you. Kalman, how are you, buddy? Everyone, any 20, 30, 40-year-olds in here, if you're 20 and put in a $300 a month, you'll have $1 million at retirement. Get after it. Yeah. Like it. 180K into $1 million if you start when you're 20. And until what? You're 60? How do we know when CI is coming out of the halt and at what price? I know you do that regularly during your morning sessions. Thank you. Okay. Playback rate says 5,000 kilobyte per second. See, this is what pisses me off. There's a guy streaming at 1080p, and he was doing it at 2,000 kilobytes per second. I tried 2, 3, and 4, and it would not bump me up to 1080p. Once I got to 5,000, yes. Okay, it bumped me up. But that's a lot of upload. That's a lot of up. 3 to 4 seconds of buffer and 5 seconds latency to broadcaster. Oh, yeah. You can select a low latency mode, can't you? I think right there somewhere you're able to select low latency mode. In Twitch, not me, but you, like the viewer, I believe can switch to that, and I think it makes your device work a little bit extra harder. Yeah, that's fine about the 11 frames per second because I set it to 10 frames per second, so the computer didn't have to work too hard. I gotta change some settings for the next broadcast. Let's see. Looking for any special settings here. All right. Interesting. Idea why Netflix was so incredibly bullish today. No. Let me see. No, but boy, what a run Netflix has been on. 500 to 600 and almost 40 now. %28 in a month, less than a month. Boy, really? Wait, less than what? No, about a month and a half, 6 weeks. All right, watch this level here at 142 on Apple. OLPX is still progressing. Watch your OLPX there. Hollywood SEP. Welcome. Oh, yeah. Any idea? Hey, just some feedback. I set up a noise gate to stop the mic vibrations and keyboard from being picked up. I have this. Okay, so I can go on headset when I need to. Check. Now I'm on headset. See, isn't that a lot better? And now I'm typing. Watch. Not as bad, right? Hello. Eric, damn Evan, I hang out with you more than my wife on the daily. In fact, more than anyone. That's funny. Too funny. I like how this shows the avatars. I gotta ask this guy, how do I get the avatars up there? That's cool. I like being able to see your avatars. That's really cool. Check the settings. Maybe I'm able to. Yeah. That's funny. All you guys. I mean, now that I'm like on here a lot more, what I'm trying to do is just tweak this thing so it really works for us. So I guess the hearings are over on Facebook, and it didn't change much at all. I got to see Facebook break 355, so that's a long way for it to even be considered out of the downtrend and going sideways. That's very funny. Where do you live again, Sergio? I kind of remember and kind of forgot. You're gonna say it, and I'm gonna be like, oh yeah. I think it's in California. I'm not looking. It's California. I think Diamond Bar or some shit. Fuck, I can't. Oh, I think I remember. It was starts with F. It's not called Foreman. It's called Fresno. I think. Are you in Fresno? Shit, that took a lot of mental energy. This is exactly why memorizing shit is just a waste of time. I don't know where the fuck you live. Yeah, all I gotta do is ask anytime. Well, I don't know if you're here anymore. Did you tell me where you lived? Okay. I am trying to figure out. Okay, I think I got that answer on that. Trying to make all kinds of improvements here. Got that going up now. Today, for some reason, the tube correctly. I think maybe I have it connected to the wrong channel. But it is. Oh. All right, cool. Figured that one out. I was right. It was Fresno. Thank you very much. Yes, I have no idea how I remembered that. You're in Baltimore, Maryland. All right. Yeah, you haven't been shot yet, and then you deleted your comment. I got it. Too late. And it's immortalized. I let everybody know what you said. Look at that BMRA fucking crap out after that pop, huh? Jeez. Pain in the ass. Let's see here. Right. And I'm trying. I just figured out what I was trying to look for. Trying to see if I get avatars to show up. Chat. That's all. Wrong forum. Yeah. There you go. Easier to say that stuff on Twitch. Man. All right. So now let's figure out this YouTube problem here while I'm hanging with you guys. Oh yeah, and this is a piece of mail I can probably just file away already. Let's see. Trying to cut through my mail. Okay. You're in Oki, but slow mover. Strong chart using your indicators. Or should I move money to something that looks more promising? Okay, let's see. No. Where that goes. Performance on that. Let me see. Oh yeah, 123% year over year. No. Stick to that one. Stick in stuff that goes up. Facebook holding up here. Okay. I really wish Facebook would crash more. Put this in here. Sure, that's the wrong channel. Yeah, that's the wrong YouTube channel. That's why no one was on this morning. Oh, that's funny. Cool. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to have so many things solved here. The market's about to break out again. S&P 500. Industrials already leading the way. Industrials leading the way. So relative strength-wise, industrials strongest. Got in at a recent U breakout area. Good, Eric. And it's possible to get out in an uptrend. It's possible to get in an uptrend after a pullback has sort of stopped and slowed at the bottom. of the pullback, and then you get in the green candle that breaks over red candle high. Higher risk, lower probability, but it gets you in at a better price, and so it can be very much worth it. And then you can even get in for half, and then get in the other half on the breakout, for confirmation. You remove it. I can't believe I did that. The hell was I doing? Connect to YouTube. Wow, I must have just not been paying attention that much. Huh? Candle on? No, I'm talking about a daily chart, man. You're talking about a swing trade? I thought you were talking about a swing trade. Damn it. Where is it? Perfect. Okay, so this is going to work tomorrow. Swing, yes. The chat seems very delayed with responses. Yeah, it's 15 seconds of delay between us. Like probably 7.5 each way. So I'll look up. I got to look that up here. I'll look up how to fix that tonight. OBS Studio, how to move lag. Stream delay. Choose advanced and locate stream delay. Let me see. That's bullshit. Let's see. Stream delay. Oh, yeah, I have no stream delay enabled. Reserve cutoff point, which increases delay when reconnecting. So maybe delay gets worse and worse because of that. And I could try to enable it with like a 5-second delay. I don't know if it fixes it right now, but maybe in a couple minutes here we could check if maybe it did. And by the way, it's 10 frames per second. You guys, can you tell, does that make me look blurry when I move my hands? Or is it just fine? Because I want to keep it at 10 if I don't need to go any faster. My wife's going to be bringing back some McDonald's in a minute, and I'm probably going to step out at that point. Kind of blurry, but not bad. In your opinion. Thanks, RJ. Yeah. If it's good enough for you, then it's very good. 5 seconds of delay. What a fixed delay. Also, I think this mic is not at the same time as the camera, right? Well, apparently the higher quality, more delay. Somebody says it's not worth trying. That's funny. Tune, 0 latency. Oh, that's right. I remember over in the tune there was a setting for that. I'll keep that up. And tomorrow, try that, yeah. All right, BMRA, it's pretty crapped out. Microsoft still going. The market pretty much topped. See how the market just makes all of its move the first hour or 2 hours of the day, that's it. And then you can just sit here all day just sideways for the rest of the day. Make 90% of your money in the first 2 hours, and then you'll make 10% more if you stick around for 5 hours. So from a opportunity cost perspective, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for anybody to trade after like 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. It's technically not worth it. Like, you should know better. Blurry when I wave, but it's okay. All right, thank you. Oh, how did you get in here? Hello. You're very strong at opening doors, huh? Kitty cat. Spectrum bill. There you go. See if he bounces. Yeah. You don't ever have to say just kidding. That's fine, Sergio. I know you are. People get sensitive over fucking certain jokes, huh? Ian. Houston, Texas. CEI Camber has been made aware of the short report issued by Carousel Capital. Regarding such report, James Doris, President and Chief Executive Officer of Camber, commented, "We are not involved in, nor do we comment on, the day-to-day trading of the company's common stock. I can say, however, that our business relationships are legitimate and that we are firmly committed to improving the organization's capitalization and executing on our growth strategy." What's up? Gotta be careful with all the Karens, I know. Never have to say just kidding with a cat joke. With respect to the company's public filings, our objective is for the company to become... where are you, cat? Is for the company to become current on or before the expiration of the initial cure period is established by the New York Stock Exchange. Why are you messing with my stuff? Additional details, blah, blah, blah. All right. You guys realize that trading the stock market shares are basically like trading baseball cards. Because these are shares that they sold to the public. Now you guys are just fighting over them. They don't give a shit. They're not their shares. If they want later, they can buy them back from you. But they have nothing to do with the value of the company. The business of the company, nothing. Zero. Nada. Those shares do entitle you to a dividend if they have a dividend, though. But you have to realize that the value of your shares have nothing to do with the company. It's called a secondary market. Go look it up. The stock market is a secondary market. I'm telling you, you are basically reselling baseball cards. That's all the fuck you're doing with these stock market shares. The company has their own shares. They're private. They're not on the public market. The employees have those own shares. There's preferred shares. There's options. All these things, all private. This cat's driving me nuts. Okay, I'm gonna take a break. Good question, Ethan, and it can very much depend on how those private shares are, what their value is tied to. But essentially, yeah. So there's this mysterious link between them, but the value of those shares is not tied to the value of the company. That's the weirdest thing you got to think of, and it's a secondary market. Right, Ethan? No. That's so funny, right? Nope. P-Car. I'm going to P-Car. I'm going to get some of this for hold over into tomorrow. P-Car. 78, 82, $4 a risk. If I don't get that filled right away, I'm going to get shares instead. Cancel. Zeta, gonna get some Zeta. $2 a risk. Back in a bit. All right. We got, 9 more minutes on the market. Let's see if there's anything else doing anything interesting. I already got into Zeta. And what was the other one? PCAR. So now let's take a look at BTBT. Yes, BTBT is looking pretty damn good. All right, I'll get some BTBT. $2 a risk on that, BTBT. Can you guys hear me? I think you can. All right, $2 a risk on that. All right, BTBT. Roni? No. Okay, all those are off. PCAR, CMA, AOS. Interesting. Possibly AOS. SAIA. No. So that's pretty much it. All right. BTBT. And then Max. What's going on with this stock? Max. Could it follow through? Is it worth trying? It sure doesn't look like it will at all. It's a real long shot. For $2 a risk, I'll give it a try. Not suggesting I recommend it, but like, if it's out, maybe it works out. All right, we'll give that a try. I'm also getting shares so that I can play around with them in after hours if I need to, or pre-market in case anything weird happens. DHR, let's see. Somebody just asked. So. All right, 6 minutes to the closing bell. How's it going, everybody? Go ahead and type shit and text and chat and interact and shit because this thing has like 15 seconds of delay and like we've only got 5 minutes until the closing bell. So if we're going to interact, you need to get the fuck on top of it. Okay? Type something. If you have something to say, let it out. Jackson, SI still going. Okay. Is that a swing trade? I don't even remember. Is that a swing trade we're in? Wow, look at that. SI. There's one I'd like to get in as well. $15 of risk. SI. I'll give it a try. Overnight on SI, $15 of risk. Okay. I did the mental calculation. Count. But yeah, if you have something you want to ask me, type it in and ask because we only got a couple minutes and there's 15 seconds of delay on the chat here. SI. We're already up on BTBT and Max and Zeta. All right, so some of these are already working out. Wow, the market tanking right now, breaking important pivots across the board. So just giving back a lot of the gains on the day. But yeah, so BTBT, Zeta, ZETA, Max, MAX, and SI. Blame Biden. Did Biden just get on the air? I'm not sort of paying attention. As soon as Biden speaks, SPY drops. Yeah. It's like, oh, shit, I forgot, but all this is predicated on a retard running the country. God, I forgot. And then everyone's like, all right, well, I better convert to cash and gold. You can count out. Bitcoin's up, though. Bitcoin's going up. Wait, what? Can't be right. Nah, I think I'm looking at the wrong figures here. Bitcoin's hit 51,000? 52,000? That can't be right. Gotta take a look at this. What? No way. Bitcoin's making a run for it. Wow. All right, so if Bitcoin can break this pivot, this high that it recently made, 53,000, okay? Remember that number, 53,000. If it blows 53,000 tonight, watch out. It could, be a resistance and then come back down. But it's either that or it blasts past it. So you can get in there for 12,000 of risk. Yeah, look at that. Bitcoin heading up to 53,000. One of the strongest things on my charts right now. You can see it right here. I'll highlight you'll see it turning a little bit more green. Yeah, there. I don't know if you can see that. I'll make it like blink. That's the Bitcoin. So you can see it's really, really bullish right now. You might want to just grab some Bitcoin for the overnight. I already got it, so yeah. So, Bitcoin or gold is like where people go when the shit hits the fan. I don't know. Biden must be saying that the talks are breaking down. That must be what's going on. I'm not watching, but perhaps that's what's going on. All right, we literally have like 1 minute and 30 seconds left or something like that. Can't quite read the tiny little text from far. And we are looking at SPY giving back about 30% of the gains today. Not quite like a doji or a topping tail candle. It's okay. It's probably going to hold right around here. There's only a minute left. Does anybody want me to look at anything real quick? Because then I'm going to go right after the closing bell. BTBT overnight. Yes, sir. Or, gosh, I already forget now. I think it was $2 of risk, man. You got 1 minute to get it. Well, assuming it's on a market that doesn't trade in after hours. But, yeah, $2 of risk on BTBT, maybe even $2.50. Whoa. The market dropping really strong right now, right at the close there. That was a huge, look at the volume on that. I don't know if you see that on this one where it says SPY S&P 500. Look at underneath there. Look at that huge volume candle. $1.4 billion traded in the last couple milliseconds there. Wow. Compare that to the opening. Look at that, guys. Huge sell-off at the close. What's that about? Man. All right. Yeah, so I'm holding BTBT overnight. And what about SPSX? You want me to take a look at that? I think you were asking about that earlier. And no, that's the bear. Okay, that's the bear S&P 500 bear. Can't really hold that overnight. It decays. That's for day trading. BTBT, Zeta, ZETA, Max, and SI. And right now, I'm up already almost 3% on Zeta. Zeta doing really, really good. Where is that? It's not even up on my screen, but yeah, doing really, really good. And Max and BTBT. These were strong closers. So be sure to take partial profits throughout after hours and pre-market. The other ones, for example, just completely crapped out by the time the market opened this morning. So don't necessarily have the plan to just hold it until the market tomorrow morning. You might have to play these in after hours. All right, guys, it was a good trading day. Interesting. And I will catch you tomorrow. I'm going to definitely cut the stream there. And we made a lot of progress. You got it up to 1080p. And I'll be making the lag. It'll have less lag tomorrow. And we'll be on YouTube also tomorrow. A whole bunch of stuff is